Good morning, Eliza. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I came across your LinkedIn profile after one of your photos. Actually, it went viral. I think there was close to 30,000 comments and millions of views. So really want to dive deeper into that. But before we get to there, you are the owner and founder of Flish Consulting. I'm really sorry. And the Ideas Woman. So please enlighten the audience, love to hear a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. So thank you. I have a research background. I worked in research in universities for a long time, but in the research training area, which means that I would teach people how to do PhDs. I would orient them into the programs. I would also run programs for their supervisors on how to supervise PhD candidates and that sort of thing. So a few years ago, they're 6 now, I had twin boys who were born quite prematurely. And with all of that, I really needed some more flexibility in my life and needed to be able to really control my own timetable. So I left working internally in the university system and I started up Flish Consulting, which has been going for almost 4 years now. And I still do a lot of work within the higher education sector in Australia and abroad as well. But I am really privileged to be able to involve myself in other projects. I've got project management skills, public speaking skills, and those sorts of things. A lot of facilitation I do for various organisations, and I do that using a research methodology. So, organisations will get research out of every workshop that I run for them, as well as just the pure workshop too. So that's kind of what I do. And I'm privileged now that I can work in a lot of different fields using my skills that I developed through research.
Fantastic. That is so great. I think these days, you really have to be independent to be able to manage your time, and otherwise being stuck to an employer, you're fixed at the time and then fixed at the clock for your working hours. And then in reality, you've got no time for yourself and for your family. So I think that a lot of people have been successful adapting to creating their own means and their own successful businesses. So well done on that front.
Thank you. And it's quite liberating too, I think, especially for women to be able to really take charge and of their own destiny.
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head on that one. Now, I would love to share my screen with the audience, I guess, and with everyone, because I came across this super raw picture, as you do, and myself being a mother as well, I have absolutely been in this position a number of times. And I can't believe that it has gone viral in terms of a lot of negativity around this image, I guess you could say. But could you walk us through this rather than just me reading off the screen? I'd love you to walk us through this photo.
Sure. Well, I was sitting at the breakfast table one day, just getting in a couple of emails, and my baby wanted a feed, and he came and I popped him on my lap, and I was kind of in that zone where you've got a sentence that you really need to write before you forget it. And so I continued to write a little bit before I returned to breastfeeding. But in that time, my husband snapped a photo of me multitasking, feeding and typing on the computer. And because he just thought it was, I guess he thought it was a beautiful picture to take. And when I looked at it, I just thought, this is just such a great visual description of what working parents are doing at home during the pandemic. We're adapting, we're multitasking. Sometimes we need to work and care for our children at the same time, and it really is just a snapshot of life. And so I thought it'd be really nice just to put up for my clients and my colleagues, and just to let them see some of the realities of what I'm dealing with at home. And of course, it's completely unfiltered. It's I'm uncoiffed. I don't have my hair done, or I haven't brushed my hair like I have done so today. And I was kind of proud of the picture. And I did not expect it to go viral. I guess that's the thing. When something goes viral, that's the last thing that you expect. So that was a real surprise to me. And then, of course, I had a lot of positive support from it, I've got to say. And I think there were far more positive support on the picture than there was negative. But the negative reactions were quite loud and quite vitriolic and quite profound.
Which I think it's perhaps a little bit surprising, because it was, you know, comments, and I read through quite a lot of them from both females and males commenting from the negative aspect. And you're right, there was certainly some positive comments, which is of course very welcomed and, you know, lovely to be reading. But the harshness of some things, you know, people saying that this is something that is ordinary, and, you know, why would you be glorifying such tasks, and other people saying you shouldn't be concentrating, you're not giving the full divided attention to both tasks, which I think is really unfair, considering that, you know, for the last 2 years, a lot of us have had to juggle so many things at home. And it really shows, you know, how much a lot of not only women, you know, both men and women take on within the household to provide a means. Now, offline, you were mentioning that, you know, you saw a couple of photos with women showing less skin, I guess, in images, and then men with kids on their table being glorified. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, I found it really interesting. And I often think that women get, and I believe the research backs me up here, that women have much more harsh criticism directed at them online, but also in things like, you know, in the boardroom and across the working world. And one of the interesting photos that I came across in the same week, just coincidentally, was the picture of a man with his newborn child, and he was at a computer typing and had the baby resting on the table between him and the keyboard. And, you know, it was a beautiful photo, and, you know, of a father and their child. And I thought it was lovely. But the interesting thing was he didn't get any negative comments from that. It was all, oh, wow, you know, aren't you a great dad? Aren't you great at multitasking? Isn't this just amazing? Aren't you lucky to be at home with your child? And there was none of the negative comments that I received. And certainly, you know, we talked about the negative comments saying that I shouldn't be maybe exposing as much as I am, but, you know, that's breastfeeding for you. And I think, look, some of the commenters actually were showing more skin in their profile pictures than I was in that photo, which I found completely ironic, and they were commenting negatively on me. But we had some of those comments, but then the comments got quite vitriolic. It wasn't just about that. It was about me being a narcissist, and about me just doing this to seek attention, and that I was neglecting my child, that I was abusing my child, that, you know, I was a psychopath in a few instances, and the comments got really, really angry. And so I decided to actually write back. All of the, you know, conventional wisdom is don't feed the trolls. But I thought, you know what? This is a snapshot of my life. This is not my whole life. I don't sit there. Clearly, I don't have the baby with me now. I don't sit there all the time doing other things while I'm feeding my children. My children get, you know, a lot of attention from me one-on-one. And yeah, this is just a snapshot of my life. And the other thing was, I kind of wanted to make people realize that, yes, this is a viral picture, but there is a person behind this. This isn't just an abstract viral situation. This is someone who has posted online, not expected it to go viral, and not expecting it to go viral. And here it is. Do you want to take a break? Because there's a garbage truck outside.
Yeah, no worries, no problems. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the reality. You have to deal with,
isn't it? The garbage truck.
Yeah,
the children are miraculously being fired at the moment, which is amazing. So,
yeah, cool.
Having a good day.
Yeah, no worries at all. I'm yeah, pretty flexible and raw as they come as well. You could probably hear something in my background. So I guess, you know, if we can just draw from this experience, what do you think that you have maybe learned, or you know, your takeaway points? And on top of this, is this something that you would be coaching your type of clients to be, I guess, managing from a workplace perspective, not in regards to the photo, but just workloads?
For sure, in terms of my PhD candidates, and I tend to deal with fairly specific issues, but in terms of workload, my philosophy and what I have always told my workshop participants is that if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. And that's really, really important. And I my relationship with my husband, we are completely equal in the childcare. Obviously, he can't breastfeed, but you know, and everything else, we're absolute equals, which is the way it should be. And you know, we really try to give each other time to do things like exercise and to you know, fulfill our own hobbies and things like that. Although it's very busy with children and you can't always do that, we're always trying to give each other just a little bit of time, because it is so much healthier to do that, especially, you know, in a pandemic where people's mental health is struggling so much from the isolation. And, you know, even we're so lucky where we are where I am in Queensland. I know in Melbourne, where you are at the moment, they've had a horrific time with lockdown. So I feel very privileged, and solidarity to all my friends down south, because it's been really tough on you. And in other places in the world, it's been absolutely horrendous too. So we've been very lucky. But even things like, you know, my twins, when they were born, it wasn't a pandemic. I could take them to things like library time and different classes and enrichment opportunities and all those things that you want to do for your children. But the baby, he hasn't been able to do all of these things that I would ordinarily do. So, you know, children, it's tough on the children. It's tough on the parents not being able to properly bond with one another and share in the experience of the pandemic. And I think that's why online connection is so important, you know, connecting with people like yourself, for example, on a personal level and a business level is so useful. And I think, you know, as many opportunities that people have to connect with like-minded people online is so important, because you know, you're missing out on so much else in the pandemic, and that connection, I think, is what really keeps people going. I think that's another sort of reason why I posted it as well. That picture, I really wanted you know, my other mum friends to know that they weren't in this alone, and that this is what it really looks like, and it's okay to sort of be open with these situations that you have, working from home, working and raising your family and managing the home life too. So I really did that for them, and again, didn't expect it to get the traction that it did at all.
No, at the end of the day, you never know what goes viral and what doesn't. But I think it's really opened up maybe eyes around the world. And I know, you know, in the Middle East, perhaps this would be something that would be considered as taboo. You know, if you went around to the various malls, shopping complexes, etc., you wouldn't see people breastfeeding in public at all. I mean, they've got amazing facilities, breastfeeding change centers or rooms dedicated for that. But whereas, you know, sort of in Australia or the Western world, it could be the norm. Just, you know, people I've seen in Kmart, for example, just whipping out you know, feeding their children as they go along. So I think, you know, the complete views as to what's right or wrong in public versus even behind closed doors and working is, you know, completely different as well.
Yeah, correct. But the interesting thing was, I noticed there was a lot of support from people in the Middle East saying, you know, how natural it was and how beautiful it was to see. And I think, you know, the people from the Middle East who might not be accustomed to seeing breastfeeding in public per se were still supportive of me doing it at home, and also aware of the fact that I am not from the Middle East too. So there was a lot of cultural tolerance. Obviously, I didn't see a particular trend amongst any cultural or group, or even potentially religious group, against it. There was equal support and equal derision and criticism from globally. It didn't matter where they were from. It was sort of the same percentage no matter where you were. And I found that really, really interesting too. You know, when I posted again, I didn't think of any of the cultural or international aspects of it. I hardly expected it to go where it was. Yeah, I found that really interesting, that people were culturally aware of where I was coming from as well, by and large.
Absolutely. Now, I would love to maybe touch on something that goes viral. So have you had any, not repercussions, that's probably a negative connotation, but any outcomes to such, you know, maybe some PR efforts have gone even further, or been invited to other conferences or, I don't know, discussions like this as a result of something going viral? Because 30,000 likes or, you know, clicks or whatever it is versus, I think, 3 million views you're at.
Yeah, 3.07 million views or something like that. So a lot. Not really, to be honest with you. I haven't had a lot of I had some. I managed to. Well, the LinkedIn news team picked up on the story and posted about that. Honestly, I haven't Googled my name to see if it has gone any further than that I don't know of. Maybe I should do that. I'm not sure. But I've had connections with you. I've made connections a lot more. I've had a lot more people sort of sign on to follow me. But again, not too many. So I've probably picked up about 2,000 followers from it. But I've made a lot of really great connections with women and men around the globe who are very like-minded, and a lot of even women who aren't in a similar situation to me, but are business women. And I think that to me is wonderful. As I said before, I think building those connections online is a particularly useful thing during a pandemic from purely a community perspective. And so building additional connections with people who are in business and in a similar field to me, and even those who aren't in a similar field but in business, that has been particularly, I think, heartening and positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I guess what it was going to be leading me to is that, we're stuck behind a computer a lot more than we're used to, but we're no longer flying to networking events or going to as many, say, dinners or, the face-to-face interactions that we used to so readily have. And it perhaps opens up the opportunity to be globally connected, and then also which supports business revenue at the end of the day.
True. And I think that there is an absolutely new norm when it comes to, these things. Sorry, I thought I had a child just come in. I think I did have a little child just peek around the corner. But there is certainly a new norm. And I think that is very much highlighted. People are working in their spare bedrooms, for example, and are making do with what they've got. And I think it is sad to have lost that in-person connection. It would be lovely to be able to fly to conferences and to speak with people in person. I think that's always the best way of doing business and the best way of relating to people. But again, people are extraordinarily adaptable and extraordinarily resourceful when it comes to crisis too. And this has been less so in Australia, more so in third world countries and countries without such good medical systems. But this has been a global crisis, and it's been a crisis of connection as well as a medical crisis too. So, and it is amazing how resourceful people are in these situations.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think, I don't know, I think that you have given some great insights and some really valuable tips and tricks for, I guess, juggling tasks and realizing that it's okay to be doing things. From my perspective, it is quite normal. And I guess, people just have to realize that we've got to put food on the table. You can't just be doing one task anymore, especially when you're digitally connected. This is the modern age, as you rightly mentioned. So yeah, I guess maybe in closing, is there any, I don't know, advice, or is there anything that you could see when from your life experiences?
I think, well, from this particular experience, people won't see what you necessarily see from it. For example, the original post to me was not about breastfeeding at all. It was about, being resourceful and multitasking and surviving in this very odd work-life environment. And then people obviously picked up on the breastfeeding aspect of it and different other aspects that I didn't expect. So I think my best advice is to expect the unexpected. And also, contrary to what people tell you, you can reply to the trolls if you have a good point. Why not? It certainly shocks some of them into realizing that you are a real person. I had a couple of people go, oh, whoops, sorry. But then, of course, I had a lot of people double down as well. But it was quite satisfying to be able to take ownership of it and say, no, I am a real person and I am going to respond to you and I'm not going to be ashamed. And I think that garnered quite a bit of support as well. So I think the best advice I can give is do what you feel is right. You don't necessarily have to take the conventional wisdom on anything. So be creative.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. Now, as a business owner, I always want to make sure that people get maximized. Is there any support services or any offerings that you can help our audiences, even if it is something in a niche area? I guess just over the globe, you never know who needs help where.
Sure. Well, I do a lot of online facilitation as well as in-person facilitation. And I work with all sorts of organisations who are wanting to build teams and things like that. So I've facilitated workshops in person that have been hundreds of people down to, just a few people. And I everything that I do, I try to get people to take away something from that. It's not just a workshop that sort of stands alone, but it's something that you can develop. But also I pull research from that for people as well. So my edge is that I will gather data from what we do in the workshops and provide that to organisations and their teams so that they can improve and so that they can grow based on that.
Fantastic. I'm assuming it's like high performance coaching.
Yeah, kind of like high performance coaching. For example, I will run quite large workshops on planning days, on strategy events, and that sort of thing. And people find that taking research away from those things and me doing pre-surveying and also gathering research from the actual day itself that people can see developing in real time. I use various apps for that. They find that useful because they always take away something from it. So I definitely don't believe that standalone workshops are the best way for me. I think that being able to sort of have something that people can reflect on, but also use to develop their organizations and potentially themselves, I think that's a really useful thing for my clients.
Fantastic. I love it. Eliza, thank you so much for this morning. Once again, I'm appreciative of your time, and I'll pop the link to maybe the photo that went viral and of course your profile page down in the link. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Tricia. It's lovely to speak with you and lovely to get to know you.
Fantastic.